Hi, friends. I wanted to share that I just got back this weekend from by far the most profound, powerful, heart-opening, heart-expanding experience in my life this weekend with 15 men in Idlewild, California. And I just want to share with you, I want to share a little bit about um, where I'm at now. Like now I feel more sense of completeness with who I am than I've ever felt in my life. I feel like I'm living what I'm made for. Like this is my purpose. And I feel so excited and passionate. I want to share, but I also want to share that 10 years of pain, 10 years of struggle, as I feel like what got me here. And so I just want to share my story with you in hopes that that'll help any of you out who are listening, that are struggling, that are in pain, that are figuring out moving into purpose, and hopefully this will relate. So, about 10 years ago, I fell in love. I had a dream for a long time that I'd be this, I had this big fantasy. We fall in love with these ideas. We fall in love with these fantasies of what life is supposed to be. And I fell in love with this fantasy that life was, I'd be by 28, I'd be this millionaire. And I dreamed of this business and this life that I would have. And I worked my ass off to get there over and over again, failing. And I got to this point where I had the business, we were up and running. I maxed out my credit cards to get it off the ground. Our biggest month was $150,000. We were making progress, and I could start to see the vision. I started to project into the future, where it was heading, what was happening. And then all of a sudden, as life takes a turn, call it tragedy, call it life, call it chance, call it whatever you will, struck. And call it like in this brief period of time, I lost my business through some betrayal. I lost a business partner. I lost my girlfriend at the time, who I was in love with. I lost the business, and I'd funded the business, and it was so much of a strain that I had to go through bankruptcy. At that same time, my brother had come to see me about a couple months before with the business, and he was in a really tough place. And he said, Josh, I got to come live with you, or I feel like I'm going to die. And I was so blinded by this vision of what I thought I would be if I created this business, what I thought I would be if I'd finally be enough. I thought if I had this business, because I felt such lack, I think, inside. And I couldn't do it. I said, hey, I'll find you another place. But I had computers all over my living room. It was like total startup. And I told him no. And a couple days later, he went back and he died. And so when everything came crashing down, I had intense grief. I had like intense grief and shame and guilt that I'd failed my brother, that I'd failed what was really important in life, and I'd made wrong choices. And so I found myself lost of every external area: my business, my money, my business partner, who was my best friend at the time, my girlfriend, and my brother. Like all these areas at once, all hit, and I was in intense pain. And when we all deal with loss, we're never taught to deal with loss. Like, why don't they teach this? Why isn't this part of the instruction of life? Like, they teach math and science and psychology and all this other stuff, history, but they don't teach us everybody we know is going to die. We're all going to die. All of us experience loss. We go through heartbreak, divorce. Like, so many people get divorced. We go through loss of a dream. We go through, heartbreak of an idea. We go through loss of an identity. We go from, being a kid, if you will, to now we have to be an adult, and the kid dies. That identity of the kid dies. Sometimes we become a parent quicker than we thought we'd be, and we're grieving what it was like to be our youth. Sometimes we become a parent and then we move on and we're still grieving being a parent. Like, life is so inherently full of loss. Why aren't we taught to deal with it? So for me, my experience led to a lot of numbing, and my numbing happened to be achievement. So it was tricky. It didn't seem like it. And that's kind of the reason for my post. Is my confession was, I went to go learn with Tony Robbins. I went to go say, who's the best in the world? Let me change my state. Let me feel better. This pain is really intense. How do I deal with this? And in learning with Tony and traveling the country and learning this concept, I kept changing my state. Change your language, change your focus, change your psychology, language, focus, physiology. I just kept doing it again and again and again and again. And I'd feel better temporarily, but deep down inside, something was still there. That pain was still there and it wouldn't go away. And it led me to studying with shamans. It led me to, you know, doing ceremonies, doing psychics, channel, like all this stuff, whatever. I just kept trying to like fix me because I felt broken. And nothing would quite do it. The closest thing that I got was forgiveness, doing some forgiveness work. And, you know, this deep forgiveness work really gave me a sense of peace. With some of the guilt and the shame that I had. And so I started hosting ceremonies at Burning Man. The last 10 years I've been doing ceremonies for other people because that was the one thing that I found that I thought helped me. And I think what happened is I got so used to living with the pain that I would project myself out to the world like I was living the life. I was traveling the country. I was doing this, I was doing that, but deep down inside I was in pain. And I think I got so used to living with it, I just thought that I was healed. I thought that I was in a better place. And I started getting on grief forums to try to help other people. And I quickly learned that I didn't have the tools. So I let out to start doing a documentary. We started with my brother, Chris Hillman. And he's like a brother from another mother. And we started interviewing all these grief experts from around the country. We were interviewing, you know, because grief is so misunderstood. There's so many conflicting perspectives. So we were interviewing, you know, the people that go into the Boston bombings or 9/11. Or like who goes in, who are those soldiers that have so much love in their heart that they go in on the ground floor to serve other people, to help other people, and what are the lessons I could learn from them? And you know, 20 interviews later, 4 years later, 60 hours of footage, and everything started to change. I see there's some comments. Hi Jen, I saw your comment earlier. Hi Matt. But what started to shift in me is my understanding about loss, my understanding about life, my understanding about all these things completely started to change. And as they started to change, it actually forced me to go into grief, which for a short time was uncomfortable. But what I learned from it is I started to feel more at peace as I started to go through it, as I started to be with it, as I started to accept my grief, accept my pain, you know, just embracing like, you know, this is who we are. Life started to change. I felt like my capacity to be a human started opening. You know, my heart opened more. Like I didn't realize it had been shut down. You know, I love you, Ian. I love you, Stephen. You know, but my heart had been shut, and all of a sudden I was like this before because I didn't let the pain in, because I kept trying to change it, and I thought something was wrong with me with that pain, and I kept trying to push it down. I was numbing it. I was hiding it. I was like pushing it down, whether it was, you know, substance, or whether it was workaholism, or whether it was, or I thought it was something else. If only I had enough money, if only I had this right relationship, if only I had the right body, whatever these external things were, I thought I could fix my pain, but none of them fixed it. You know, none of them would actually solve that pain. And so what I started to learn through these interviews is it was more about accepting the pain, not hiding it, changing it, fixing it, like more accepting the brokenness that we have as well as the wholeness. More about accepting who we are and that this is a part of life. And, you know, like this is how life is. And it's actually, as we love, we fall in love with this fantasy, what life is supposed to be. And that fantasy, it's our heart, we fall in love with. And then when we lose it, it's pain. The pain is our loss from loving. It's actually that grief that we're feeling, that pain that we're feeling is part of that love. So in allowing ourselves to feel it, like if you break your leg, think about it for a moment. If you actually like shattered your leg and you went to the doctor, they would say, hey, you're 4 to 12 weeks in a cast. You can't move because the bones are broken. You can't move this leg because you're going to keep re-breaking it. So you're going to be 4 to 12 weeks in a cast, and it's accepted. People see you in a cast, they accept it. They might ride on your cast. You're at home, you can't really move. You're walking around on crutches. So you're just used to it. You're posted up. You can't run like you used to do before. So you start thinking about things and you start allowing yourself to process, and it's okay. You get the cast off and your muscles have atrophied. So then you have another 4 to 12 weeks of rehabilitation to get it back. So you're looking at 3 to 6 months from a shattered, broken leg. Yet in society, I had a man in my course this weekend say after 2 weeks, somebody said to get over his dad dying. So we're not taught to deal with loss, emotional loss. That's what it is. It's heartbreak. It's our emotions. We're not taught to deal with it. And so because it is, everybody like, you're supposed to get over it quick. So even if people are feeling uncomfortable now, it's because we've all been taught, get over this shit, move on, hurry up, get over this pain. So because we've conditioned that when somebody else is in pain, it triggers our pain. It makes us feel uncomfortable. We want them to get over it quick. We're trying to take it away, but at least my experience was we're all just trying to numb it. We're all trying to numb our own pains because when somebody else's, it brings up ours, and we're all we're all walking around with pain. So if we're all walking around with quote unquote broken legs, of course we would need to numb it. Of course we would need to be walking around dealing with numbing. So I feel like a lot of us numbing through addictions and pain and whatever else we're going through is we're just trying to numb the pain. And then if we make the numbing wrong, we shame ourselves, and the shame's a loop. We get stuck in these loops where we're just continuing to play out the shame pattern and beating ourselves up. So, you know, I just want to introduce this concept of that it's okay to feel a sense of brokenness with your wholeness. It's okay, you know, and how do we be gentler with ourselves? How do we be more loving with ourselves? You know, I'm not saying to like wallow into a hole and disappear with life. Like, we got to be strong and find ways to go walk and to move through it. But through it is the key, not avoid it, not run around it, not jump over it. We have to move through it. We have to be with it. Think about being, if you lose, if one of your best friends or somebody you love dearly dies, let's say one of your best friends, they love somebody they love dearly dies. There's nothing you can say. All you can do is be with them. Like, there's nothing you can say to take that away. There's nothing. But what you can do is you can be there with your heart. You can love them. You can just be with them. So if that's what you would do for a close friend, how do we do that with ourselves? When we're going through our own grief, how do we just be there with ourselves? How do we be like, hey, I'm here. I'm here, man. This may be tough. This may be difficult. Let's be gentle right now. Man, I'm not back in the flow of things like I should. Okay, it's okay. So, you know, what I did is, after learning a lot of these frameworks and it started to change my reality, I realized there was something much bigger here. Something beneath the surface, and it's something that needed to be shared. And I hired a coach. Her name's Mina. She's amazing. I worked with her at Tony Robbins, and she's really big into transformation like I am. And we worked for 7 months. We worked for 7 months to kind of take these concepts, to build frameworks to follow, understandings to share. And I tested them on myself, and that's, I think, a lot of what started to change my life, is I'm starting to feel, again, a sense of peace. Where in all these areas that I was resisting or running or hiding or just avoiding, if you will. And for me, it's achievement. I don't know what your stuff is, but for me, if I was just busy doing a project or working on this project or that project, then it was a lot easier to not look at my pain. And once I'm finally now able to sit with it and I'm kind of unpack those bags and look at those areas and be with those areas and love those areas, it's starting to all shift. I'm starting to accept who I am. And I've stepped now into my purpose, and that's why I feel like I'm just honored. I tested them on myself. I tested them on a couple of close friends. And then this weekend, this is kind of the whole point of sharing it, is I hosted my first Mastering Freedom men's retreat, and I had 12 men. It was 15 total with me and a couple men who helped, but I'm just honored. I'm honored and grateful, and I feel like my mission is to liberate souls, like to liberate souls in a sense of removing some of that pain, to make it a little lighter. How do I just make it a little bit lighter? And I don't feel like, again, none of this is mine. I feel like I'm holding space for whatever created us. Call it God, call it the universe, call it spirit, call it whatever consciousness this is that created us, that has us living. How do I be a conduit to serve that energy? And I feel like I'm just excited. I'm honored. I'm grateful to share that I'm doing it. I've stepped into it and I'm holding space. And I feel like it's starting out, at least through these men's retreats. And, you know, I just want to share, like, I don't know where you're at. For me, it was my pain that gave me my dharma, if you will, right? It was my deepest moments of darkness, my deepest moments of pain that I couldn't fix through all the personal development, through all the courses I went to, that I finally was able to find a way to solve it. And now I'm able to give that gift and help others. So, you know, I don't know where you're at. I don't know what you're going through. I don't know if you're in pain. I don't know if you're struggling, if you're numbing, if you're avoiding what you're going through. But I just wanted to let you know that it's okay. It's okay to be a little gentler with yourself. And also let you know, like, for me, it was actually the road to my dharma, for what I'm here to do. It's to me to step into my purpose was to keep trying to solve that pain. And once I found a way, everything shifted. So just wanted to share this message with you in hopes that it would help you. Again, it was a confession to share that sometimes life isn't what it's supposed to be. And, you know, I think we're all struggling. And, you know, sometimes it could seem like to the world that you're doing great, but deep down inside you're kind of in pain. And I just want you to know you're not alone. If you've ever experienced this, or if you're experiencing this now, you're not alone. You know, we're in this together. And I think a lot of us have the same challenges and are going through the same things. And that's part of the human experience. So learning to accept ourselves, learning to be with ourselves, learning to love ourselves, all of us, the good and the bad, right? The pain and the happiness. I think it makes us more human. And as we're more human, we have more love. We have more capacity to love others. We have more capacity to sit and be with others. And so that's my message for the day. That's my confession. I saw a lot of names of people I love on here, and just good friends and family. And thanks for listening. Thanks for being here. And hope this message has helped you today. Have a blessed day.